Wicked 2 for good. Based on the musical that was based on the book by Gregory Maguire that was based on the works of Frank L. Baum's Wizard of Oz. It was pretty good, but in my opinion, not as good as part 1. And I don't actually think that's an unpopular opinion, which we will get to. I will say though, the ending got me good. I was emotionally devastated in so many ways. Now last year I dove into Wicked for what was literally the first time in my life. I didn't really know anything about it. I'm not a Wizard of Oz fan. I knew it was related to that obviously, but I had a delightful time with that movie. Particularly with the charm and comedic delivery of Ariana Grande as Glinda. It was incredible. You all came on an in-the-moment journey with me as I was experiencing it in real time. But I had been warned that it was a very top-heavy musical, Act 1, and by proxy, this first movie is stronger for a variety of reasons that I will try to get into as someone engaging with it for the first time, but the first half definitely has the benefit of getting to be lighter in tone overall, and it feels like there are more standout songs, in my opinion. I know some people are like, no, you're so wrong. There are just as many good songs in part 2. People just don't appreciate them. I do think that the songs in part 1 are stronger. This part has to get a lot darker, which I'm actually okay with. I really like the story that it's exploring. It was one of the things that surprised me the most when watching the first movie. But it's trying to fit so much into this one movie that it feels very rushed at times, and it's just jumping from one thing to the next. I've heard that this movie does actually end up focusing more on some of the serious issues than the actual stage musical does, but I still think there's just too much love triangle energy in here, especially when it's taking away from the tension between the other characters that should be focused on, and they keep teasing us with. You know what I mean. Oh, you don't. It's Glinda and Elphaba. Obviously, the performances of the leads are still really strong, and like the voices are on point as always. The vocals are great. It's just that like nothing can really like compare and compete with the silly fun of Popular or the intensity of Defying Gravity. I just don't find any of these songs have been stuck in my head since watching it. But this movie is picking up 5 years after Elphaba defied the not so wonderful Wizard of Oz, and the world has come to know her as the Wicked Witch of the West as she tries to reveal the wizard's lies to no success. This is the part of the story where we line up with the events of the Wizard of Oz. Not officially, it is different. They're not supposed to actually like click in perfectly, but we will see some familiar characters. And it gets pretty deep into the human animal rights and political side of things, which was the area of Wicked that actually surprised me the most. I had no idea going into it that there was that whole other layer. Jeff Goldblum has a scene where you're like, oh shit, too real. You're literally saying the quiet part out loud. And if part 1 is characters still having this like strong belief in the system and having hope for the way things are, this part is about that illusion being shattered and looking at the ways people are trying to engage with fixing that corruption either from the inside or the outside. Otherwise, like last year, I had some issues with the directing and the cinematography choices, which I still obviously have here because these movies were shot back to back. Like they can't just go back and decide to shoot the scenes wider. They can't go back and light certain scenes, so it's taking advantage of these like beautiful practical sets they built. To me, parts of it end up feeling a little bit lifeless for how vibrant those moments are supposed to be, and then even where the areas where it is supposed to be darker and the tone is darker, I really wanted more depth to those rich colors. But that's also one of the areas that has constantly been in contention since the last movie, so I won't go to, you might disagree with me, a lot of people do, but that's kind of where I fell on it. I just want those musical numbers to feel bigger. I do actually like how they shoot the Dorothy moments though. Those really feel like they're in their own moment in time. Otherwise, I think it might hold hands a little bit too much when it's conveying the themes and ideas, but again, still a good time, especially around people who are so excited to be there watching it in a theater. You just let those emotions watch over you. It was fun to see what I was right about in terms of what my assumptions were for what was coming in part 2, what I was wrong about, and you'll get to find out why I was like, oh my god, she's Batman in The Dark Knight. Don't worry, it'll make sense when we get there. But that is where I'll leave us for the spoiler-free area. Let's bop into Oz. Well, not literally. We can't actually do that. And while you can't go to Oz, there are a bunch of other experiences you can take advantage of with today's sponsor, Tingly, and their exclusive Black Friday deal. Do you have that family member that you can never figure out what they'd want as a gift? The person that gets themselves everything first? Well, that's where Tingly comes in with their experience voucher gift boxes. Because this year we're giving stories, not stuff. Whether they're like adventures, food, sightseeing, historical landmarks, spas, boat rides, guided tours, Tingly offers more than 150,000 experiences across the US and worldwide. Meaning you can learn how to make pizza in Italy or go ziplining in Mexico. I'm gonna go ziplining in Mexico. But you don't even have to go far to find one of these experiences. I really wasn't expecting the Maritimes to have much of anything available, but there are so many different experiences to choose from across the East Coast provinces. For once, we weren't forgotten. So you don't have to worry about making somebody feel like they need to travel to take advantage of the gift you got them. They can just find the perfect experience right at home. There's also no stress about immediately deciding something you want to do. Once you use the voucher code from the gift box, it just stays in your account until you're ready to use it. No expiration date. I grabbed the Merry Christmas box box with over 16,000 experiences across 100 countries because 'tis the season. And it genuinely just makes the perfect gift that's somehow both thoughtful and gives your loved one full control over what they want to do. All in this nice gift box so they have something to open under the tree with the voucher card and booklet with everything they need to know to pick the perfect experience. And right now you can get 33% off Tingley with code Amanda for their exclusive Black Friday sales by clicking the link down below or at tingley.com/Amanda. That's TINGGLY.com/Amanda to save 33% by typing that code right into the discount bar. Thanks again to Tingley for sponsoring. Now back to the video. Okay, so quick refresher on part 1, which I will actually have linked down below. I have my whole video linked down below. But what is the story going on behind our incredible enemies to lovers chemistry of our leads is that the animals in Oz who can talk and live and work amongst people, and in the books are doing some other stuff with people. I just don't let your kids read that book. Don't let your kids read the book. But the animals are starting to be seen as less than. They're being locked up. They're losing the ability to speak. There's like weird propaganda explaining why they'd be happier that way. By the end of the movie, Elphaba and Glinda head to the Emerald City to ask the wizard to stop it all from happening and to set things right again, only to find out that he has no powers at all and that he's the one causing all the negative sentiment towards the animals, so the people of Oz don't realize how much control is being exerted over them and how unhappy things are. Poignant! And the wizard specifically wants Elphaba as someone who has genuine magic to help keep up the facade because he has no magic. Specifically, they need her to read the Grimoire. That's what they can't do. Immediately tricking her into being a puppet by having her create the flying monkeys that he wants to use as spies. Bringing us to the big finale where she defies gravity after she makes Glinda understand why she needs to go off to try and change things.
You're not ruining my final note.
Please, for the love of God, everyone watch the movie Theater Camp. So now we are 5 years later, the animals are being subjugated, used for labor, losing the ability to speak, and Elphaba is still fighting for their rights while trying to expose the lies of the wizard. While also surfing away on her broomstick? That's right, guys, she shreds. But despite everything she's doing to try to expose these lies, the propaganda against her has firmly taken hold around Oz, and the people are terrified of her. So while she's trying to work from outside the system, Glinda's essentially allowed herself to become a puppet for the wizard. She's now Glinda the good, hero of the people, the hope they need. So now they have the enemy of the other in the Wicked Witch and the animals, and they have the sign for good with Glinda. And now Fiyero is the head of the wizard's guard charged with hunting Elphaba down, and Madame Morrible has decided that after 5 years of them being together, he and Glinda will be getting married pretty fast, pretty soon. And he says he's into it, but you know it's just because he's trying not to rock the boat, and Glinda's really insecure about the fact that he's not into it, and she can feel that, but that's fine, girl. You're not supposed to be with him. I need you to take all those confused emotions and put them where they belong. Now, first, it does actually seem like they're all on this propaganda train, but Fiyero is just trying to find Elphaba first to make sure no one kills her, openly disgusted at how stupid the people of Oz are being about, like, all the rumors about her, believing all of them, and, like, Morrible's literally worked to make the people forget her name was ever even Elphaba. And Glinda's in a position where she likes to think she can work at making changes from the inside, but she's also just very into being Glinda the good. She's thinking about copywriting good, actually, you know, trademarking it and all that, but, like, she loves the love. She always has. She even admits it here. But they do also run the risk of imprisonment, death, torture, exile if they leave. So there's a lot going on here. We got a political thriller, baby. We get a flashback to her past that I don't think was super necessary, where she wanted a magic wand for her birthday and she gets one. And then like the kids thought she made a rainbow outside, and she's just been maintaining that lie that she can do magic ever since. So that's why Madame Morrible has the bauble made so she can look like she has the ability to fly like Elphaba. I didn't hate the flashback. I just think that some of that runtime could have been used for something else, or just create a little bit more breathing room for some of those bigger moments. It does obviously add to her character development, but it's all stuff that you can just infer from watching the movies. I don't think it actually needed to be shown. Then after a song where she's singing about never being happier, which you can tell she doesn't actually feel, Elphaba shows up to write "Our wizard lies in the skies," which Madame Morrible changes to "Oz dies." So yeah, you can see why the people are a little bit scared of her. I would just like to remind everybody that real life media works the exact same way, and there are so many people whose specific job it is to find out ways to piss you off with what you're reading in headlines so they can make more money and keep you angry and keep you focused on the wrong things and the wrong people. And after 5 years of things just steadily getting worse, I guess the remaining animals that have managed to avoid being captured and still have the ability to speak are just leaving Oz underground because of all the new laws that are being enacted. Elphaba almost has them convinced to stay and fight, but then the lion that she saved in the first movie is now a propaganda agent against her and reveals that she's the one that made the flying monkeys. This is her gosh darn cowardly lion and ungrateful little bitch. I'm gonna be honest, I should have known that the literal lion was gonna be the lion. It's fine. I usually catch things. The point from here, though, is that Elphaba is just extremely alone in the world and losing any sense of allies she has. So that is what's up with the main cast. How about those lovable side characters? Oh, what? There aren't really any of those? I know. Let's go over to Nessa. Nessa is now the governor of Munchkinland after their father died and essentially just does whatever the wizard wants, literally signing laws that require animals to have permits to travel, which is, step one in full eradication. And that's about when Bach decides to dip, because, yeah, I guess he's still around. You figured that over the last, 5 years, he would have left after knowing he has no feelings for her, but guess not. And Nessa just accepts this with grace. I'm actually joking completely. She added munchkins to the law of people needing permits so he can't leave. Girl, get yourself together. That is absurd. And here's a little bit of foreshadowing. He has to be back working with her like a little servant chopping wood. And she's surprised that he's not just cool with all this. It's actually kind of scary. But he's also delusional because when he realizes that Glinda and Fiera are getting married, he's like, wow, I gotta strike now and stop that from happening. She doesn't know you, man. It's right after he leaves that Elphaba shows up asking Nessa for help, but she is not at all on board. She blames Elphaba for their father's death and actually asks for her help instead, so Elphaba enchants those fancy-ass shoes so she can float in them. Finally doing something with her powers that seems good, but then little Bucky boy walks back in, sees her floating around, is literally like, oh, well, now that you've got this whole floating thing going for you, can I go dip and profess my love to Glinda? I lost my heart the day I first saw her. My guy, she just fucked over her own people to stop you from getting away from her. Do you really think she's gonna let you leave? And in her rage, she tries to do a spell that causes his heart to literally start shrinking in his body, and I will remind you of that little foreshadowing I mentioned earlier, because to stop him from dying, Elphaba turns him into the Tin Man. That's right, guys, Dorothy's friends are made from people that have been right under our eyes the entire time, like the literal lion. Oh, you all already knew that? Fine. But yeah, based on what some of you guys were saying in the comment section of my last video of trying to not have that part spoiled, put my thought process in that direction. But I'll be honest, I did think that Bach was going to be the cowardly lion because he's a little bitch. But I was right about who was going to be the scarecrow, which we'll get to later. I do like that they show Bach seeing his reflection just before he's trying to get on the train and leave, and he's all happy and excited, then enraged when he sees his reflection as the Tin Man. So yeah, Nessa sucks, making her the Wicked Witch of the East, bro.
Grow up, bro.
And honestly, yeah, she's pretty darn wicked. Now, very much unlike the Tin Man you may recognize from The Wizard of Oz, this Tin Man is on a rampage. He's very angry for obvious reasons, and then he goes to kill Elphaba because Nessa blames everything on her. From here, though, we get our first real moment with Elphie and Glinda while she's preparing for her wedding, and the whole moment is just so gay.
You never saw me.
No, I can't bear this anymore.
Again, they are giving people crumbs and expecting us to feel fed. And much like Twilight, there are some moments in the book that support this even harder. But we aren't fed, there's a Fiero-shaped distraction in the way. But once again, the two end up going to the wizard. Elphaba wants him to tell the world that he's a liar, while Glinda thinks that they can work from the inside to make change. Not rock the boat or break the status quo. As of now, though, he has no real incentive to let that happen. He literally says he could tell everyone he lied about everything, and they wouldn't believe him because they don't want to. Okay, too real, guys. But Elphaba realizes that because he wants to use her powers, she has leverage. And he actually ends up agreeing to do the things she asked in exchange for keeping up the charade with her powers so people think he has powers. And with that, he won't need the animals to blame for everything that's going wrong anymore. Again, too real. But almost immediately after he agrees, she realizes that he actually has a bunch of animals that can no longer speak, stored in tiny cages in the dark, including Dr. Dilliman. So deals off, baby. Apparently, the musical actually cuts a lot of the animal rights stuff to make more time for the love triangle, which is very unfortunate because I already feel like there's a little bit too much of that here. But she gets the wizard into a cage, Fiero shows up to help, and they both escape together, leaving a heartbroken Glinda behind. But I feel like in this moment they should have just killed the wizard or tied him up and brought him with them as leverage, because now it's just going to be a whole new level of propaganda against her. But they're too busy hooking up to worry about that. Girl, he was moments away from marrying another woman. A woman that you have better chemistry with. And that woman is now scorned. Who's to say which betrayal hurt her more? So she tells Morrible that the way to get to Elphaba is to use her sister. Not realizing that Morrible is completely unhinged and causes that whole ass tornado that brings down the house on Nessa. But to be honest, I don't care. She was kind of going sexual predator evil. So that means it's time for Dorothy to kind of enter the story. For those thinking that she was going to be really prominent, I kind of thought she might have been a little bit more prominent. No, Elphaba just kind of shows up to the wreckage just in time to see Glinda sending her off on her way to the wizard with Nessa's shoes. shoes. And Glinda's just like, yeah, people are really making a habit of taking things that don't belong to them. Like Fiyero. Guys, no, you're fighting for the wrong thing. Leads to a fun little bitch slap fight though. That is delightful. I just need a little bit of levity here and there is very nice, very fun. But that moment of levity leads to the guards showing up to grab her, which is when Fiyero threatens to shoot Glinda if they don't let her go. Oh my god, you guys were betrothed. That is cruel. I understand what you're doing, but that was cruel. And the fact that Glinda still cares is astounding. She literally gives Elphaba her hat back when she tells her to go. She's just so sad at the situation. Man, I really entered this whole experience a year ago expecting to absolutely hate this character, not really understand any of it, but like, I'm in, guys. I'm a Glinda the Good. Yeah. Thankfully, Fiyero doesn't actually shoot her, but then he gets drug away after he's apologizing to her, and she's still trying to save him despite the fact that he just had like a gun to her head. So Elphaba's rushing back to the castle, realizing that they're gonna torture and kill him, so she's desperately trying to cast a spell so that he won't feel any of it happening, which turns him into the Scarecrow. So yeah, he's definitely not gonna die now. Can he even die at all? I did figure he was gonna be the Scarecrow because he had a whole song about being thoughtless in the first movie, and he was the only one not to fall asleep in class. Now this is all taking place while Elphaba is singing the No Good Deed Goes Unpunished song, deciding to commit to being evil or wicked, I should say. Cut to the wizard, and Dorothy and her friends are arriving to seek help, which Madame Morrible says they can use to their advantage, so he ends up asking them to kill the Wicked Witch of the West in exchange for his help. I do love the song though, because the Tin Man's obviously in a bad situation and like very right to be upset at what's happened to him, and then the lion's like, yeah, she let me out of a cage. She's a monster. They do spin it as if like, oh, if she just let him fight his own battles, he wouldn't be a coward, but come on. But then they're just gone, like nothing else happens with their characters after he glares at her. So much of this movie feels like set up for a third part that's not gonna come. I will say the Scarecrow in this does have a brain. He doesn't actually lose his brain, so I assume he's kind of going along with them so he can just try to get to Elphaba first. Now Glinda's watching this all happen, and she goes into her own song about living in a bubble, which I guess was written specifically for this movie by Ariana Grande, and it's the whole thing is that she's just willing to stay in that metaphorical bubble while all these horrible things were happening around her. But no more! She goes to Madame Morrible to beg for it to all stop before she realizes in that moment that Nessa's death wasn't an accident, and she's let herself be tricked by this woman more than she realized. So she rushes off to try and find Elphie to make sure she doesn't die, who's already told the flying monkeys at this point to bring Dorothy right to her so she can get the shoes back, and then locks her in the basement or a dungeon or something. Yeah, she decided to go wicked and was like, yeah, we're kidnapping a kid. But through all this, Glinda still believes better than her, even after she realizes that it seems like Fiyero is dead. Yeah, at this point, they don't know the whole Scarecrow thing. But Elphaba's still ready to accept her fate as the Wicked Witch, and she won't let Glinda help her because they need someone to be wicked so she can be good. Oh my god, she's Batman in the Dark Knight! She is Batman in the Dark Knight!
No, you can't. You're not. I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be.
This moment, though, completely heartbreaking. Glinda's obviously not really on board with his plan, so Elphaba's just like, hey, look at me. And she does with the kindest, most loving smile, but then Elphie's like,
not with your eyes, with theirs.
And the pain that hits her face, my god, it hits! Too bad we wasted all that time on a love triangle! So Elphie sends her off with the Grimoire and tells her she's gonna have to learn how to use it so that she can be the good Oz was promised. And I guess that's a pretty big change. Glinda doesn't learn how to use the Grimoire, or even ends up being suggested that she would learn how to use the Grimoire in the musical. But this song is probably the strongest in the movie, which makes sense. It is the song called For Good, ending with their mutual expression of love for one another, and neither of them cried over Fiyero this much. So Glinda hides away in this doorway. Elphie lets Dorothy out, and it plays out as shadows of the original movie. I did actually think that was a pretty cool creative choice. Like, it's not actually showing it as happening. We never actually see Dorothy's face. But with that noted, does that mean that Dorothy just like heard all of that happening go down from underneath them and then still just killed her? Because if she heard that beautiful display of love and still killed her, she can go right down with Nessa, squashed by a house, eaten by the tornado. But man, when Glinda cried, I cried. Because that got me. I thought she might not die in this version. The only positive that happens here is that the flying monkeys seem to be learning to talk again, and Chistery gives Glinda that green vial that Elphie had kept as a keepsake, and then she remembers that the wizard was drinking out of the same kind of bottle earlier in the movie, realizing that the wizard is Elphaba's father. So she confronts him with it, giving us a horrific little flashback with a very roughly de-aged Jeff Goldblum with Elphaba's mom. I personally don't think we needed the flashback or the de-aging, but that's fine. And that was the thing about this story that seemed the most obvious obvious to me from part 1, but the thing that did still end up surprising me is that he didn't realize that Elphaba was his daughter. Like, for some reason, I thought this was some intentional scheme that he put together and was like waiting for her to be old enough to use, and that's what brought us to where we are now. Then he knew that creating a child from both worlds, because he's from Earth, would allow that child to read the grimoire. But no, he didn't. I just kind of thought he was too much of a dick to care that he was setting up for the death of his daughter, but he was genuinely shook that he facilitated her death. Too bad, Bucko. Glinda is exiling you from Oz for good. For good. That wasn't even intentional. Then she has the flying monkeys lock Madame Morrible up in one of those tiny cages they had for the animals, which honestly, don't really understand why they didn't give the wizard the same treatment. Either way, totally on board with this badass run here. Almost started to feel like an Avenger finale, the way she was like locked and loaded and moving into her bobble. But that brought us full circle to the beginning of the first movie, which I now get to experience with new context. I remember being like, oh my god, she's such a bitch. She doesn't even care that this person is dead. But no, Glinda doesn't go full evil in this part. Like, I was like, I don't even know how that's gonna happen based on the end of the last movie. Not fully, but she actually redeems herself here, and she just wants away from this death celebration. And her first mission is to make sure everyone, including the animals, are seen as equal, using her power to do what Elphaba couldn't. Which made me realize, or at least I think I realized, that her singing that song with that like forlorn sadness at the beginning of the first movie wasn't about Elphaba being wicked. It was about her kind of seeing the wickedness in herself and how it's like resulted in her being alone. So she's trying to be good now. She's trying to be better. But because of the choices she made, because of the way she was her whole life, and not acting sooner, she is now alone. She might not be in these positions anymore. Things could have been a little bit better, and now she kind of has to live with that. At least that's why I'm taking it, because she sings about the wicked being the truly alone, and she is now alone. But it's not over yet, because guess who crawls out of that trap door? It's Elphaba, who comes out to find Fiyero waiting for her, who for some reason looks like Ryan Reynolds as the Scarecrow. And thankfully, unlike Bach, he's actually happy with what happened, knowing that she saved his life. But again, can he even die now? Is it going to be like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein out there in a wasteland once she eats it? And they decide that they need to leave Oz for obvious reasons for her, but not tell Glinda that they're alive, thinking that it's safer and better for her and them. But damn, that sucks so bad. Glinda's just lost everyone. They do harmonize one last time without knowing, and the grimoire seems to make itself available for Glinda to read. So I guess that is, again, a major change. And then we get one last shot at the end with Glinda whispering in Elphie's ear as a little flashback. See, they know what the people want. They're just not willing to give it to them. The book has a moment where she's talking about the happiest moment of her life being when they were sleeping next to each other on the train to the Emerald City. Come on, dude. Sorry. And yeah, man, I really liked the way that ended, all things considered. The emotions hit super hard. I really was not expecting to be more engaged with Glinda's storyline and character progressions in this movie compared to Elphaba's. So yeah, good job, team. Never in a million years did I think I'd care about any of this, and here we are. But that is pretty much Wicked for good. If you saw this, let me know what you guys are thinking. Did you love it? Did you not love it so much? Did you like it more than me? Did I miss some cool details because I haven't seen the original stage play or something? You let me know down below. But thank you all so much for watching. Thanks as always to my Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members, and for Tingly for sponsoring the video. You can check out more about them down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video if you're into that kind of thing. All my other social medias are listed down below. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm mostly okay, and we'll catch you all later.